I've got 7. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Freese. I'm the mayor of Tonganoxie. I'm calling to order this regular meeting of the Tonganoxie City Council for December 20th, 2021. Ms. Huntington, will you call the roll, please, and note that I am here?
Yes. Rocky Hempel.
Here.
Jacob Dale.
Here.
Laura Lee Stevens.
Here.
Chris Donnelly.
Here.
Jennifer McCutcheon. Not present.
All right, thank you, Ms. Huntington. Would you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Is there any discussion, questions, or corrections to the minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 3, the consent agenda, the review of our bill payments each meeting. Are there any questions, comments, corrections, or concerns about the bill payments? If not, I would accept a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hempel. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. Under old business, we have nothing listed. Mr. Porter, did anyone sign up to speak before 1 this afternoon? All right, thank you. So we will not have open comments tonight. We'll move on to new business, and our first item is in recognition of Tonganoxie High School student Hayden York's 4A state golf tournament first place finish. Ms. York and Coach Sandberg, would you mind coming to the podium? Council, I wanted to bring this to you guys and recognize this very impressive feat. Just some quick bio stuff that Coach put up for me. Thank you very much. The important thing is her GPA is a 3.97. She won 7 tournaments this year. She won 6 consecutive tournaments at Topeka Hayden, Spring Hill, Jeff West, Anderson County, Piper, and Baser. She was a regional runner-up with 85. She was a state champion. If I say this wrong, I apologize. 87 and 75, won by 4 shots, correct? She led team to the 4th place finish. Her scoring average was 79.8. I could not do that in 9 holes. First team All-State Award, first individual state champion since Colby Yates in 2012. She set the school record for girls for 18 holes and 9 holes. She credits her team with keeping her loose all year and previous golfers for showing her how to be a champion. She has been nominated for the Kenneth Smith Award. She will be attending a national tournament at Pinehurst in June, and she plans on going to college to study either education or working in the national parks while playing golf in college. How did this happen, Ms. York?
I don't know. I just practiced all summer long. I made sure to do stuff every day. Hit a bucket of balls or go play holes with Sandberg or just work on my short game. And then in the long game, it paid off.
That's great. What was the final part of the tournament? Did you know you were up? How did that go for you?
Well, I was out there. I had like three holes left or something. And Brent Maycock, he does stuff for the Topeka newspaper. And I see him come over, start taking pictures. I was like, oh, I know something's up. And then our athletic director, Mr. Witt, was coming by, and I heard him whispering stuff to Sandberg. So I was like, I think I might have just won this thing. But the coolest part was my last hole, I had a long putt. I sunk it in for par to save par, and all my teammates were there to cheer me on.
Oh, that's fantastic. Coach, do you have anything you want to say about Ms. York?
It has been a pleasure to coach a young lady like this. One of the strongest things that you can say about Hayden is that she has a great work ethic, because also think about it, she did not pick up the game of golf until the end of her 8th grade year. So to stretch this and to improve in this way over the 3-year period has been a wonderful thing to see and do. And I think we've been on a pretty fun ride since the state championship, because we've had at least 4 or 5 college coaches calling us and wanting to start checking her out for those other opportunities as we're moving forward and doing that. So it has been a fun ride, and thank God she's only a junior, because that makes next year we can have a lot more fun, and we'll try to do it again. So we'll see what happens.
That's fantastic. And Hayden, what do you credit as the key to your success?
I credit to all my teammates, my family, teammates in the past and the present, golf courses, Mrs. Whitman, and I guess Mr. Sandberg.
You guys, yeah, Coach. Well, that's great. Well, we have a special recognition for you that we'd like to give you. Council, would you like to come down and take a photo with her, with me, please? Sure.
My privilege.
I guess I'd add to it.
Want to actually go stand in front of the dais there?
Trying to get it on.
All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3. That's great. Thank you.
Congratulations. That's impressive. Makes me jealous.
We can clap. Doug, is this the 4th or 5th year for the program?
This is the 5th year for the program, so the girls have made great strides in that. This is the 2nd time they've been to the state tournament, and if you read any of Maycock's stuff, you know that last year we probably should have been in the state tournament. Hayden got the bad news with COVID being around of we had to pull her off of the regional course 2 holes in, and she was our 2nd best player. And if she would have shot what she normally would have shot that year, we would have been, this would have been the 3rd year in a row we've been there. So it was a great redemption story to have that Hayden got pulled off the course, wasn't able to play her regionals as a sophomore, then to turn around and win the individual state championship the next year and have put in all the effort she did was pretty amazing. So
That's great. Thank you, Coach.
no problem.
Hayden, thank you for setting a great example for our community and for young people, and especially young women in our community. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item B. You folks who came for that don't need to feel like you need to stick around. It gets less exciting from here. So, item B, public hearing to determine if the structure located at 723 Yoke Street, Tonganoxie, Kansas, should be condemned. Mr. Brakovich, I believe this is yours.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. So actually, items B and C are related to the same issue at 723 Yoke. But beginning with item B, this is the advertised public hearing. So you'll probably recall there's history with this particular address. We had taken steps to previously address junked or abandoned vehicles and debris on the property. And once that got removed, our building inspector was better able to assess the structure, and then we found deficiencies in the structure. And so back in November, we considered those items, and then consistent with both state statute and city code, you approved a resolution which then set a public hearing to consider the structure this evening. And we published that and provided notice, and I believe maybe the owners of the properties here this evening. In our discussion with the building inspector and our new code enforcement, we haven't noticed that the owners taken any action to improve the structure since that notice was provided. And so staff stands on the previous recommendation to move forward with the abatement of that property in a similar fashion. And I think if you see fit, you can open the public hearing, see if there's any comments, and between staff and city attorney, hopefully we can address any questions there might be with this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brockovich. At this time, I'm opening the public hearing to determine if the structure located at 723 Yoki Street, Tonganoxie, Kansas, should be condemned and ordered repaired or demolished pursuant to KSA 12-1750. Sir, are you the owner of the property?
Yes, I am.
Can you state your name and your address? And
My name is Andy Williamson. The address is 723 Yoke, Tonganoxie, Kansas, 66086.
okay, what were your comments, sir?
Well, first of all, there was never a list, according to ordinance number 8512A. I should have received a list of issues with the property. I have not received that list as of today. The city claims that there's a dangerous structure, but they haven't pointed out anything that shows that it's dangerous, according to the statute of Kansas. Chapter 12, I forgot exactly what the statute is. First of all, they have not brought to my attention any situation to present a dangerous structure. This is just ongoing harassment. First they come and move the property off there, understandable, it's done. But at this point, it's pure harassment. There's no reason to consider this property dangerous structure. If there is, they haven't presented it. Not to me, not to you.
Is that your comments there?
That's my first comment.
Okay, well, you can keep going.
Well, no, first of all, before I even had to come to a hearing, they had to present a list of issues with the property. They're supposed to give me the opportunity to fix that, that's on the list. Again, there's no list. So how am I supposed to know what I need to repair or fix to make the property not dangerous?
Mr. Brockovich, or staff, or attorney, do you have any response to this?
Sure. Part of the November 1st packet included the report from the building inspector that was provided to the property owner as well, that lists and details the issues with the property.
And where is that list?
It would have been on the city's website, sir.
It would have been on the city's website?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I haven't seen anything on the city website. I haven't been provided a list or any kind.
But
I mean, where is it?
It's on
We're saying it exists, but nobody has it right here. Where is the list?
Right. So again, it was part of the agenda packet. It was provided to the property owner as well.
No, it wasn't.
sir, we're going to work through this as civilly as we can, if
Okay.
you don't mind. This list was not given to you, and yet but it was available as a public document, and it's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm incorrect, this has been an ongoing issue.
That is incorrect. The ongoing issue was solved.
Hold on, just,
previously
can
to
I
this.
let you finish? Can you let me finish? It has been an ongoing issue since at least I've been mayor, which is coming up on 2 full years now. So a reasonable person, I think, could assume that, could expect you, I believe, to have kept monitoring that situation, whether it was in phone calls from your attorney to our attorney. I would have expected anyone to be checking that website regularly, especially if something that was going on for what I know is 2 years. And it's published publicly. So whether you received it or not, it was there for the public. And as my staff is telling us, our staff is telling us that it was given to you. Mr. Brockovich, how was it given to, what was your last name again, sir? I'm sorry.
Williamson.
Williamson, thank you.
I believe that it was delivered via email, and I don't have the record in front of me, so I'm not sure if we mailed it via regular U.S. postal mail, if we had a different address, but at the time, per the communication Mr. Williamson was having with our building inspector, it was going via email, so I know that we tried to do that. again, looking through the report that was submitted on for the November 1st meeting, in addition to the letter, it does also state that we would be willing to provide a very detailed list back to the property owner, but there are photographs that accompanied the report that detailed all of the deficiencies that were found on the property as well. I guess one further item, as staff continue to do research on this, we were also able to discover that according to our water service records, there had not been water service turned on at this property, at least in our records, since 2010. So during a long period of ownership by Mr. Williamson. And having water is one of the requirements in making a residence, fit for habitat. So,
That's written down in code somewhere?
yes.
Thank you. Mr. Williamson, did you have anything to say?
Well, I disagree that this has been going on for 2 years because they came in and they resolved the issue that was 2 years ago. They came in and removed everything off the property. Then they came back. And as far as a list is concerned, I was never provided a list. They can't provide a list to you today. What exactly makes a building dangerous? Water, electric is not required for a building that's not occupied.
Sir, I believe our city code requires water, if Mr. Brakovich is correct.
For an occupied location.
Right.
And I can pull up the ordinance right here.
Again, the conditions were listed report was provided to the property owner. It was also made part of the public record. And in addition to the notice provided for the hearing this evening, I've confirmed with our public building inspector that there has been no communication from the property owner until his appearance here this evening, which again is his right, and that's part of the public hearing for him to provide comment. But notice was given, the report was provided as well.
And you were communicating with us via email, is that correct?
I wasn't communicating with us via email.
I apologize. You were communicating with city staff via email, is
I
that
don't
correct?
know. I do not know.
You were communicating with
recall-
hold on just 1 second. You were communicating with someone with Tonganoxie about your property.
That's incorrect.
That's incorrect.
Yes, that's very incorrect. And if you can find the email where I respond, then we can use that as evidence. I never respond and never see any email that shows a list of items that makes it dangerous. Now, if he's claiming that there was a list, could he provide at least one issue that makes that building dangerous? And again, water and electric is not required under your own ordinance. It's not required unless someone is occupying the building. In order for the building to be considered dangerous, it has to be dangerous for the people that are occupying the building, or it has to be a blight to the neighborhood. There's nobody occupying the building, so it can't be dangerous to the people inside the building. It's not a blight to the neighborhood because they remove all the property off, all the stuff off the property. It made it a blight to the neighborhood. So what exactly is making this property dangerous?
Mr.
This
Mr.
guy
Williamson?
right here, making it dangerous, the owner?
No. Mr.
Yes,
Mr. Williamson,
yes.
I have a question. When you introduced yourself and provided your address, you said that your address was 723 Yolke Street.
That is correct.
And yet you don't live there.
It's still my address. That's where I receive my mail.
Okay.
Ms.
I was just
Kirschlich,
confused.
little help?
Yes, so just to reframe what's going on tonight, the hearing tonight is to consider whether to declare the structure unsafe and dangerous and to order repairs or demolition. And it's so that you would still have, this would still provide the owner with time to correct any deficiencies that are existing on the property. We've looked at both the city code provisions and the statutes. The statutes are much broader, and the city code is more specific. Mr. Williamson is correct that he should have a list. I'm not aware if that has been provided, but if it has not been provided, it would need to be provided. So you have a couple of options here tonight. I mean, you could consider continuing this hearing to the next month for the building inspector to provide the list to Mr. Williamson and to conduct any inspections that he desires to conduct. Or you could proceed with adopting the resolution and ordering repairs or demolition to commence within 30 days.
Counsel,
Mayor,
any?
If I
yes.
could add to that, so within the letter itself, that was delivered by certified mail and signed for by the property owner. Specifically, there's multiple paragraphs, but I'll read quickly from one section. It acknowledges that water and electric service have been disconnected for years. It goes on to say that the conditions on the inside of the residence, based on observation from the exterior of the structure, also constitute an unfit dwelling for human habitation. The conditions include large amounts of debris piled up and stored inside the residence, to include blocking off the necessary egress points for residential structure, overcrowding, lack of light, inadequate ventilation, lack of cleanliness, lack of operational sanitary facilities, overall dilapidation and disrepair of the structure. All of these listed conditions are violations under Chapter 8, Health and Welfare, Article 5, Minimum Housing Code. And again, that was the letter provided by certified mail, signed off by the property owner, as well as part of our published notifications, I believe, in the resolution, as well as being part of the agenda packet on the November 1st meeting.
Thank you,
George,
George.
do you happen to
Mr.
have
Williamson,
a
I'm going to
date?
ask council what else they might have to say, and then we'll have you speak again if you
A
don't
date
mind.
on the, I'm sorry, Mr. Dale.
Do you happen to have a date on the certified mail? Or was that sent after the November 1st meeting?
I don't know.
November 10th. Okay.
Thank you. And with that, would you think that would qualify as a list? As George just read that?
Are you referring to the resolution that was delivered by certified mail? Because that is required to be delivered as well, but that does not have a list.
Right, this is the actual letter from the building inspector.
So that would have been delivered likely before, because I believe his inspection was, it was before the November 1
In
hearing.
the records, Ms. Kristalik, it was placarded before the meeting, but the delivery of the report was after the November 1st meeting.
But that was delivered by certified mail as well? And
Correct.
not just the resolution, I just want to
Correct,
confirm that.
yes.
Okay.
Mr. Donnelly, did you have anything more?
No, I just want to make sure that you're comfortable that that constitutes a list. If it doesn't, it seems to me that the gentleman's here, he's the owner. I don't like taking property from people, which we aren't doing tonight. But he knows what they are. There's no question that he knows what I would suggest would be a list. And I would be tickled to push this off for another 30 days, because he knows it now. It's clear he knows it. He says that's his address, he gets his mail. And
Well-
we can have the things fixed, and we don't have to spend any money to demo the thing. But go
Correct.
ahead.
And again, this is, and I know that the word condemn is confusing to some, but this is not at all a taking of property. This is just make it right, fix the list of issues that are wrong with the property, or, and begin within 30 days. If you adopt the resolution, that's what that would do. Begin within 30 days, or the city's going to take action to abate the property. And if it is unsafe and dangerous, it's demolition. The city is not authorized to complete repairs.
Thank you, Ms. Kristalik. Mr. Williamson?
Again, what is this list? Water and electric, it's not a requirement. It doesn't make the property dangerous unless someone is occupying the property. That is in your ordinance, not mine. This is the city of Tonganoxie. They have that in the ordinance. It has to be dangerous for the person occupying the property. Again, no one's occupying the property. It has to be a blight to the neighborhood. It's no longer a blight to the neighborhood because they came in and removed all of my personal property off the neighborhood. Off the property. So it's no longer a blight. If it is, I need to know in detail exactly what it says in the ordinance, in detail what the issues are. I can't just walk around, well, maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that. You guys have to give me a detailed list of what I need to fix. And water and electric is not it. That doesn't make a building dangerous. If so, then we got a lot of dangerous buildings in Tonganoxie and many other cities that need to be condemned just for not having water and electric. Now, if someone's living in there, that's a different story. But if no one's living, it's not dangerous to anyone in that area. Now, it has to be a blight to the neighborhood. And at the same time, you got crappy houses all around my house.
Sir, please don't denigrate your neighbors. That's
Well,
just, that's just
somebody
unfair.
denigrate me. I'm gonna set a record here. If it's a blight to the neighborhood, every house in that neighborhood should be better than mine. And they're not. You got houses around there that don't even have shingles on the roof, has siding, has felt for siding. One of the complainers has junk all over his porch, has been there ever since I bought that property.
Mr. Williamson, it's just not germane to this point.
Uh,
What we're talking about,
Well,
723 Yoki.
In your ordinance, it says a blight to the neighborhood. In order for it to be a blight to the neighborhood, the whole neighborhood has to be better than mine. It's not. That's my point.
Mr. Williamson, also, some of these issues talk about health and safety for somebody living in the home. And of course, you said nobody lives there. But whether the homes are beautiful or not, this is a neighborhood of homes, not storage units.
Still not against the law. Your ordinance, again, says it has to be dangerous to the people inside of the property. Has to be a blight to the neighborhood. It's neither one of those. You guys are just constantly wasting my time. I mean, first of all, I shouldn't be here unless someone had provided a detailed list of the issues that make the property dangerous. Not, oh, we sent him an email, we did this and we did that, but he can't present one detail that makes it dangerous.
Other than the certified mail you signed off for, sir. So again, Mayor, for the record,
I'm sorry, I
proper
wasn't
notice has
through.
been
You can't
provided
interrupt
for
me.
Hold on,
this.
I can't hear two at once. Okay,
I know
please?
that, but when I interrupt him, you tell him to stop.
I
Tell me
will-
to stop, okay?
Sir,
All right.
I need, but he has a point of clarification.
Well, I have a
And that
point
will
of
help us
clarification,
out
too.
in the whole conversation. You
Okay.
understand? Mr.
Again,
Breckenridge?
Mayor, not trying to be argumentative, but for the facts of this evening, proper notice has been delivered. The property owner signed off on certified mail. Part of the discussion was we had numerous ways of trying to contact the property owner, including email, but for this particular issue, he did receive certified mail that he signed off for, which included the letter from the building inspector, which included the details that I read for the record this evening, and it also included detailed photographs of all of the issues that were listed within the letter itself. And so as far as providing that level of notice to come to the public hearing, the update from the building inspector is none of those issues have been addressed. And so that is the item that's presented for discussion this evening in the consideration of the next resolution.
Again, what are those issues?
Well, sir, I didn't sign off on the certified letter, so I don't know.
Well, I don't either.
Who signed the letter?
I didn't sign that letter that he says exists. I signed a letter, a letter is telling me to come here. I am still waiting for this detailed list. Can anybody just please present it, and we can make this real easy? Present the list, tell me what I have to fix, and we can get it done. Stop wasting my time.
It's we have a disagreement, and.
Yeah, we have a disagreement because you don't want to talk the truth. You want to talk a bunch of nonsense, think I'm gonna be ignorant and stand here and not say anything about it.
Where did I say you were ignorant?
Hey, you
Yeah.
never said it, but you applied it. You applied it to the situation. You guys are either gonna present me a list, stop wasting my time, or we're gonna go to district court and to Kansas Supreme Court. I'm not gonna waste my time in here talking to you guys all the time about a damn property on 723 Yoke Street. Give me the damn list.
Thank you, sir. Council, how shall we proceed from here? Sorry. At this point, do you have anything else to say, Mr. Williams?
I need a detailed list
I-
of what I need to fix. I need to say specifically what I need to do to make it not dangerous.
Okay. All right. I'm going to, at this point, close the public hearing and public comments, and we'll move on to item C, which is the Resolution 122101, declaring the structure located at 723 Yoki Street, Tonganoxie, Kansas, to be unsafe and dangerous, and ordering the structure to be demolished pursuant to KSA 12-1750. I'll stop there. Is there any discussion? Council?
Mayor, if I could jump in for a second.
Absolutely.
The resolution does order, it's repair or demolition. So it isn't straight demolition at this point. It is still giving the owner an opportunity to correct the deficiencies.
Okay. Council?
I believe that sufficient notice has been given, confirmed by receipt of the certified mail, that list that was provided detailing let me see if I can find it here real quick. Oh, I remember where it was. Water and electrical service to the structure have been disconnected for years. Whether they're necessary without somebody living there is not necessarily the case, but the structure lacks adequate ventilation, light, cleanliness, sanitary facilities, and adequate ingress and egress. The structure is dilapidated, in disrepair, overcrowded, and unsanitary. The pictures indicate that the foundation is crumbling underneath the structure. The deck, so to speak, the stairs to the door is falling apart, doesn't have sufficient railing. We've already addressed, obviously, all of the exterior issues with the equipment and the overgrowth. So I feel like sufficient notice has been given with an adequate list of the issues that need to be addressed. And, I mean, I think at this point, I think it's time to keep moving forward. And, if that's additional time to repair, as Ms. Kirstelich has said, repair or demolish, it's time to move forward on that.
And
Anyone else, council?
I'm sorry, can I correct him?
Public hearing's over, sir.
It's
And I-
over.
and
Okay, so what's the decision if I just walk out the door since it's
We're
over?
not quite there yet. We're still
Well, I'm
working
gonna
on that.
talk anyway. This guy claims,
please
this
cut it.
guy claims that he puts,
Ms.
he
Huntington,
puts in
please
the
cut his
list.
microphone.
Well, this guy claims that he put in the list that the rail was an issue and it was never listed.
I'm going to call a recess for 15 minutes.
I'm ready.
Okay. Recess is over. We're back in session. Council, I want to apologize to you for perhaps escalating that situation, and Mr. Donnelly said it perfectly. Nobody wants to take anyone's property away. Nobody wants to annoy someone. We all want to work together and make the town look right. So I apologize for that getting out of hand, and we're going to move on. On the table is Resolution 1221, declaring the structure located at 723 Yoki Street. Council, is there any more discussion?
I've got just a couple, I guess, procedural questions. With the other property on Yoki Street, that was a pretty clear-cut case of unsafe. On any property, is there any point where a structural engineer is called on to come in and look at the foundation or the roof system, just to gauge if a structure is a risk for collapse, or some of those true safety things? And of course, when and Mrs. Kirstelich, Anna, if you could,
Bless you.
as a secondary question, when we talk about unsafe for habitation, for inhabitation, it's not just for somebody living there, it's for the general public, correct? So that if anybody just happened to wander in the place, it has to be safe and structurally sound. If we had, someone moving into it and what's the term for someone who moves into a property that isn't theirs? Squatters, yeah. If a squatter moved into it, there's an issue there. So the property needs to be safe for anybody.
That's
Correct.
correct. That is correct. The statutes are, speak in terms of the neighborhood, and so does the city code. And the city code does set forth minimum standards for dwellings. And that's the list that you read from, and that the building inspector provided in his report in early November, along with the pictures.
Okay. And at any point, would an engineer be called on to give a report?
The building inspector should be able to, indicate if he believes that there are foundation issues that would require structural engineer, but I think that would be up to the owner if they wanted to call in a structural engineer.
Yeah. It's within the inspector's purview to say, this isn't safe.
It is.
Yeah.
And just for a point of clarification, he does provide that in the letter as well, that the conditions are, in his opinion, beyond repair.
Anyone else?
Well, I appreciate, George, I appreciate the statement and reading. It seems to me that constitutes a list. It doesn't have a 1 and a 2 and a 3 in front of each bullet point, but it clearly states what the things are, and to me, that is a list. I'm comfortable with that, and I don't know how you could get any more clear than that, and it was obvious it was sent to him, and Brandon looked at it and did a good job of documenting it. So I'm comfortable moving forward.
And council, may I note that I also recommended that that list letter be sent again, along with this resolution if it is adopted tonight. And there are a couple of, just to call this out, I did bracket some language, it's the last whereas clause on the first page, because obviously I prepared this in advance of the hearing and didn't know if anyone would appear. So I would revise that just to indicate that the owner appeared at the hearing and provided testimony.
Thank you, Ms. Kirstelich. Anyone else?
So we would make that motion with your revisions. So, makes Rocky on.
Okay.
We're gonna make that with the recommended revisions from legal staff.
Got it. Any more comments? If
Mr.
not,
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Hempel, go right ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 10. Make a motion to approve resolution number 12-21-001, a resolution declaring the structure located at 723 Yoki Street, Tonganoxie, Kansas, to be unsafe, dangerous, and ordering the structure to be repaired or demolished pursuant to KSA 12-1750 and Section 8-501 of the Tonganoxie City Code, and authorize our city attorney to make any corrections in the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Hempel. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Huntington, would you call the roll for a vote, please? And one other question, maybe this is for Ms. Kirshelich. Do I vote on this? Only in the case of a tie, I assume.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Huntington?
Yes.
Rocky Himpel,
Yes.
Jacob Dale,
Yes.
Laura Lee Stevens,
Yes.
Chris Donnelly,
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you all for all your hard work on this, staff, legal, and council. Great work, thank you. Moving on to item D, consider approval of the cereal malt beverage CMB license renewal applications. I believe we have 4. Mr.
Porter.
Porter.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry. Mr. Porter.
All right, thank you. This item is coming in just in the nick of time before the end of the year. It's an annual process that entities in the city of Tonganoxie city limits that wish to acquire a state CMB license, request their application through the city, be considered, and if approved by the city council, complete that paperwork processing with the state. We have received the fee and associated paperwork from all 4 applicants that we've traditionally received, and those include GMP Country Market, Fast Tracks, the Brothers Grocery / Liquor Incorporated, and Casey's, excuse me. So all 4 applications are deemed to be in good order, and a simple motion can approve the award of the licenses. One point of clarification is some years we've received a question of, are the police department aware of any concerns at any of the 4 locations and activities at those locations? And we did confirm with Chief Lawson that they have no issues to report to the city council's attention. But happy to take any questions you have.
Council, do you have any questions?
No.
I just want to make sure I go on record and say that I'm in favor of this. I don't want to be at a competitive disadvantage.
That's the next.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yes, that's the right one, right?
No, it's the next item.
My apologies. Okay.
I'd make a motion that we approve applications for CMB for Casey's, Brothers Market, 5 Fast Tracks, and GMP Country Market.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Now we're on to item E. Ordinance 1497, amending the Tonganoxie City Code pertaining to sales of cereal malt beverages and alcoholic liquor, amending and repealing existing sections 3-213 and 3-304 of the Tonganoxie City Code. Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance was prepared by City Attorney, and I'm sure she'd be happy to answer any specific questions you have too about the details, but this is the second time you've heard about this item. This most recent legislative session, the state legislature enacted several different allowances and changes to the minimum requirements or sort of overall requirements of alcoholic sale permits and hours of operations and other aspects. You're probably familiar with curbside to go and other features that haven't been present in the past. This particular ordinance does not address every single change, but it does address the most significant change in the opinion of many alcoholic beverage retailers, in that it contributes to expanding the hours of permitted sales on Sundays from noon, which was the previous state maximum earliest time to start sales, until 9 a.m. The reason for that was varied, but some comments we heard were things like competitive disadvantages with other states, which might have permitted it earlier, or other municipalities, which following state law changes enacted this more quickly than we have. We did reach out, Ms. Huntington reached out to all of our retailers locally and got feedback from them, and they're actually who spurred this consideration by you of this change. But again, it doesn't affect other alcohol sale aspects, but it does merely expand the earliest hours of sales on Sundays from noon, which is our current city code allowance, until 9 a.m. So a 3-hour change.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Now, here's where I'd like to say I'd go on record as I am in favor of this. I don't want to be at a competitive disadvantage with any state or county or municipality in the area.
Mayor,
Counsel?
can I add one clarification too?
Absolutely.
This is a little unique too, in that the state law change prescribed a notice provision. So in accordance with the state law, House Bill 2137, we will also, if this is approved, publish 2 consecutive weeks in the Tonganoxie Mirror and allow for 60 days within publication of the ordinance summary in the Mirror. I think the ordinance in its entirety in the Mirror. And within that 60 days, if they so choose, citizens could elect to file a petition to hold a vote on this topic. But we haven't heard of that incident occurring in other communities that have adopted this, but I just wanted to make you aware, until 60 days of publication had passed, it wouldn't be considered enacted.
Thank you, Mr. Porter.
Thanks.
Counsel, do you have any questions or comments?
People who like to watch the noon time Chiefs game on Sunday will be really happy.
Fair.
In 70 days or so, yes.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Next season.
Yep.
I would make a motion, we approve ordinance number 1497, an ordinance amending the Tonganoxie City Code pertaining to sale of cereal malt beverages and alcoholic liquor, amending and repealing existing section 3-213 and 3-304 of the Tonganoxie City Code.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Is there a second to his motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dale.
Mayor, before a vote, I'm apologizing. I just realized that it's been a while since we've passed an ordinance, and the next ordinance in our ordering is actually number 1500. So my apologies for that oversight. But if we could please amend the motion to the
I'd be happy to
ordinance.
amend the
Thank
motion
you.
to show that as ordinance number 1500 and not 1497.
Does
And
the-
I second that.
Okay. Let's take a roll call vote on this. Ms. Huntington?
Rocky Hempel,
Yes.
Jacob Dale,
Yes.
Laura Lee Stevens.
Yes.
Chris Donnelly.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Huntington. Passes unanimously. Moving on to item F, Resolution 122102. I believe this is Ms. Kerselich or Mr. Brakovich.
I will take this one.
Thank you.
Put a pretty detailed memo in your packet. Basically, what this is about is you had seen a letter previously about potentially entering into a class action lawsuit against opioid manufacturers and distributors. We discussed that. It's probably a year or so ago, maybe more. The city opted not to do that at that time. And some cities have, and counties have joined a class action, or they have sued individually. But the state has entered into a settlement, and they adopted legislation this summer that basically, it provides for the establishment of a couple of different funds that will be basically depositories for settlement funds received from these opioid producers and distributors. And the city, or the state is going to provide those for various purposes, but most of it is to deal with substance abuse and addiction issues. And essentially what this legislation does is, if a city wants to participate in, in being able to get any of these funds or have access to those in different state grants, you would have to adopt a resolution in the form of the one that's in your packet, and enter into a memorandum of understanding. It's this Exhibit A is to the resolution. And it's a memorandum of understanding among the state attorney general, the League of Kansas Municipalities, and the Kansas Association of Counties. And in that way, the city would become essentially a party to that as well, where you're releasing and assigning your claims to the attorney general. It's what you would do. But this has to happen before January 1 of next year, or you would not be eligible for any of those funds that are going to be deposited into the municipal, I can't think of the right word, the Municipalities Fight Addiction Fund. And what they, if a city doesn't enter into that, any portion that would have been allocated to that city by, it's based on population, would be redistributed amongst the other cities that are joining into this, that are adopting a similar resolution. So it's, and if you don't adopt this resolution, if you would want to participate in any litigation involving the opioid producers or distributors, you'd have to get approval from the Attorney General first. So it makes it harder. It's part of the state settlement.
All right, thank you. Are we making a motion to pass the resolution, or do you want direction to staff? Which is it?
It would be to pass the resolution.
Okay.
And the resolution does authorize staff and to complete any other documents that might be needed. I included all of the forms that are needed at this time, but it's changing a little from time to time, but at this point, I think that it's fairly well set, that it's the two settlement release forms. There's Janssen, and then there's distributors generally, and then it's the Exhibit A, releasing and assigning claims to the AG.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions or comments?
And if we do this, we're not, I mean, if we don't do it, we still have rights to sue somebody.
This, if you do this resolution, you'd be releasing and assigning your claims
No, I
to the
understand. If we
state.
don't do it.
If you don't do it,
We'd need Attorney General's approval for any
Correct.
lawsuits.
yes.
So we could try to sue, but we need the Attorney General to sign off on it.
That's the part I want to make sure I understand.
Yeah. And since you previously chose not to,
No, I understand.
it makes sense to proceed with this.
I don't disagree with that. It would cost us arms and legs to do it. Good.
Any more conversation? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion for a resolution, to pass Resolution 112-2102, approving agreement to release and assign the city's opioid claims to the Kansas Attorney General and certifying costs attributable to substance abuse and addiction mitigation.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much for all the work that you've done on this. Moving on to item G. Consider approval of granting a utility easement to Kansas Gas Service at the business park. Mr. Brakovich.
Thanks, Mayor. So in the packet is an introductory letter from the acquisition agent, that Kansas Gas is using to obtain additional easement. This is to increase the size of the transmission line that services the business park from a 4-inch stainless steel line to a 6-inch stainless steel line. So as it exists now on the north side of Business Park Drive, it runs across lots 2 and 3. We had originally platted a 5-foot utility easement. That's the easement that the 4-inch gas line and our first water line that we ran into the park are located in. What they're asking for is an additional 10-foot easement to the north of that to run their new gas line. We don't have any issues. We've presented that to our engineers. Everybody's comfortable. What we're going back and forth on is the language, because what they've submitted, everything except the title of the document and the way it's phrased reads as an easement, but they've submitted it as a right-of-way. And we don't believe that right-of-way is the appropriate document here. This is an easement to run a specific 6-inch gas line through. So we'll go through that and work that out with them. But we wanted to present it for information tonight. As it gets finalized and approved through staff, it will need to be filed as a replat, and so some signatures will be required. But I wanted to make sure you folks were all aware of what was being proposed and why.
Thank you. Any questions or conversation?
Is all their facility below ground? They're not gonna have anything coming up above ground? Or do you know yet? They probably haven't engineered it yet.
Yeah, I believe everything is underground. They'll make connections. I'm
Wonder
sorry.
why they wanted the right of way, or why they wanted a different.
Yeah, that's what we kind of asked them, Mr. Donnelly. I mean, it's an
That would
easement,
tell me
so.
they want something different than all underground.
Well, I think, from their perspective, the easement is the most restrictive, and that's why we like it. And I think their first go at it was to see if they could get away with a right-of-way
as they could
submittal.
get.
Yeah.
So then they've got exclusive rights.
Any more conversation? So at this point, Mr. Brakovich, you would like just a consensus from council to proceed.
Yep, and I think I saw a lot of nodding heads and.
Does anyone disagree? I don't see any disagreement, so you have your marching orders
All
here.
right, thanks, Mayor.
Yep. Item H, it's a great honor to swear in Councilmember-elect Rocky Hempel. Who takes care of that? Is that you? All right, thank you, Ms. Huntington, thank you.
Mr. Hempel, will you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties of City Councilperson,
the duties of City Council person.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Fantastic, thank you.
My
Congratulations.
Welcome to the team.
Mr. Hempel, I just believe you're an exemplary council member and you're a great help as Mayor Pro Tem, and I intend to reappoint you to that
Thank you.
after the first of the year.
I think one of the reasons I want to tell the council is I'm not going to be here next month for the meeting. So this is the way I guess it's got to be done.
Yeah.
When I look at what we did this last year, and say the last 5 years, because I've been on 4 years, and I know Mr. Donnelly was on before I was, always look at, did we leave it better than when we found it? And every year, that's the goal I go by, and I felt we left the city in better shape than the way we found it. And hopefully, we can continue that next year.
I think we will. Thank
Go
you.
team, go.
Thank you, Mr. Hempel.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item I, City Manager Agenda, Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mayor. The financial report was included in the agenda packet this afternoon, and it's also provided at the dais for the council's reading. I'll be brief tonight, but if you have any particular questions, I'll be happy to stop or go back. The executive summary on page 1 is similar in a lot of fashions to previous monthly reports. We're about 91% of the way as of the end of November through the fiscal year, which is a calendar year. We've collected 103% of revenue estimated in all budgeted funds, and we've spent only 82% of expenditure budget authority. So on a whole, we are very good standing near the end of the year. We also have strong performance in several funds that I'll detail in more exact detail later. The debt service fund is our closest to annual budgetary limits within $1, but that's because we know the schedule of payments due each year and have budgeted accordingly. We don't anticipate the need to do any more year-end budget amendments. Typically, in most years, we're looking really closely at that right now. But as you can see from the provided list, we've completed budget amendments of a small or a larger amount in 8 budgeted funds this year. So through adequate monitoring throughout the year, we've been able to accommodate unforeseen changes in plans, additional funds available. An example, a $1.2 million grant from Leavenworth County that we could receive the funds, but we couldn't legally spend the dollars without the council's approval mid-year. If there are any questions on the budget amendments, I'd be happy to address those. The next paragraph references the ARPA funding, and as a reminder, we've received our first tranche and a small amount of leftover funds so far and expect the same next year. And we also, in late November, completed the approved utilization of funds for employee premium pay. And the total amount is referenced in the report as well. The last bullet paragraph in this page references a slight change in practice that I wanted to point out. Usually, the December 15th collection and remittance of property tax to the city from the county has been delayed. We often receive it the week between Christmas and New Year's. Because of that, we've often delayed that deposit of funds into the bank and passed through to the library in order to make sure there weren't issues with depositing the funds in one fiscal year and paying the pass-through the next year. Sometimes it's because budget authority wasn't there. This year, because the county received a new, I'd say much more advanced financial system, we've received that December 15th payment promptly. And so we have actually, in fact, deposited those funds and we'll pass through we actually just last Friday passed through the funds to the library. So we're now on a even footing and each year should complete the annual property tax remittances instead of delaying the last one of the year to the upcoming January. So nice to correct that, and we appreciate the county's increase in speed in processing those payments. Moving to page 2 of the report, major fund revenues and expenditures. Not much new to note there. You see several funds have positive actuals to budget, which is the middle column of the multi-column for each fund in the chart. And then budget is the far right column. Expenditures, you can see that all funds are below budgeted expenditure authority year to date, and we plan to maintain that as we reach year end. Looking at page 3 of the report, we've detailed out a few situations, starting with property and sales tax. There's not much detail on that in this report, but we will provide a much more comprehensive look at that in our year-end report next month. Franchise fees, I wanted to point out, we're still, last month we were 4% ahead. This month we're actually 6% ahead of where we were year-to-date last year. That's strong performance, and again, franchise fees are a percentage fee charged to gross revenues of all of our utilities. As utility charges goes up, that share should continue to rise, so we'll monitor that and perhaps adjust our budget assumptions as we go forward and see strong revenues in that fashion every year. Building permit proceeds is the area I wanted to point out the most detail on. Last month, we actually highlighted a little more specifically for Special Highway how industrial development at the business park and actually both the business parks in town meant we had more excise fees. Well, building permits were also taking advantage of extra development that we don't necessarily see every year. So year to date, we're 29% ahead in 2021 of where we were in 2020 at this point. Of the total revenue received, you could say just short of $54,000 was received for 2 large industrial building projects in each of our business parks, combining those two. When you consider our year-to-date collections minus that $54,000 that we wouldn't see in a normal year, we're still just under last year's performance, 6% less, but we're still over 125% above our conservative budget estimate. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is our building activity and our associated revenues have been tremendous this year and even on par with last year, which saw completion of projects and fees paid for things like the schoolyard townhome. So a multi-unit development that generated a lot of building permit revenue above a normal year. We have budgeted this very conservatively because as you all know, the housing market is boom or bust, and when the years were poor and we weren't completing many houses back in 2008, 2009, 2010, some of our baseline assumptions were established that were pretty limited. But I think what this shows in 2 years of exceeding a very conservative budget shows is perhaps we need to revise those assumptions a little more positively when we look at next year's budget preparation. So very happy to show that and just very happy to see the level of building activity we are, because it does contribute general revenues even as they're being constructed before they reach the property tax rolls. Any questions about that? Or
Council?
Okay. I'm not going to highlight the 2021 Budget Initiatives Progress Report because it's very similar to what we've seen and that we've completed nearly all of the initiatives of note in the 2021 budget. What I'd like to point out, though, on page 6 of your report is a look ahead at next year's budget initiatives. I'm not going to go exhaustively through them, but you'll see that there's 4 major initiatives with sales tax proceeds funding, 10 for the general fund, 3 for our utility funds of somewhat significance with large capital projects such as the water tower construction project, and then 2 for our public safety capital funds. As you review this list, if you have any you want to see more information on more regularly, feel free to send us that feedback and we'd be happy to add them. Yes, Mayor.
Mr. Porter, what number is under public safety capital funds? There's a typo there.
I'm sorry, it's $5,000 instead of 5,00. Yes, I'll note that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So that's our work plan, I guess you could say, in a sense, for next year. And we're excited to get started on many of those initiatives. The fund balance report is the last page. And as I said, next month, hope to have a comprehensive year-end financial report for your attention. But happy to take any questions you have.
Council?
Thank you for putting all that together.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Porter. Moving on to the city attorney agenda, Ms. Christelic.
I have no items.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem agenda, Mr.
I
Hempel.
think the only thing I have on the agenda, January 5th, I believe, the Planning and Zoning for Leavenworth County will be having a hearing, public hearing on the comprehensive plan. They'll be taking suggestions from the public. And that's probably one part of a 3-part system that we'll do. I know we have to take the comments and then we'll turn around at another meeting and discuss the comments. And then I'd say the county commissioners will do the same thing before they put, and that'll satisfy the review for the comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Mr. Hempel. City council agenda. Anyone have anything?
Just one comment. I attended a retirement party for Steve Jack at Leavenworth County Development Corporation last Friday night, and it was very well received, and I was very appreciative of Steve. And I did comment on behalf of the city of Tonganoxie, even though I didn't have authority to do so, that we appreciated the effort that Steve did. And I did disclose I didn't have authority. But I did want to note that one of the board members of Leavenworth County Development Corporation is also an engineer, and he does a lot of work all around the country, and noted that Tonganoxie's Hills project, more than likely by the end of the year, will be in the top 25 in the country, in the United States, of the largest economic development projects going on. So that's pretty good for a little town in northeast Kansas, and I wanted to share that with you. It was pretty impressive. Right now, we're at 18th, and he thinks that we will be in the top 25.
That's great. Thank you, Chris.
I would like to just take a second to thank the officers for all you guys do.
Yes.
And,
We're glad you're here tonight.
yeah.
Did you have more?
No, I don't have anything else.
All right. Anyone else? That brings us to the mayor's agenda. Thank you all. We had a great and successful year. Thank you, staff. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. With that, Mr. Dale,
I make a motion to adjourn.
second? Is there a second?
Second, before Laura Lee gets out of here and runs us over.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Yes, I did. And